Pace Bene from Brother Alexis Spagnolo. I want to give a little talk to my fellow U.S. citizens. I was born and raised in the United States, and I have always loved my country, the people, and the land. But from my earliest days of studying about the history of America, I've run into a lot of things that make me doubt whether the form of government we have is really American, or if it's not some foreign import designed to make America and America people something else and serve something else. So I'm going to address myself mainly to Catholics, but to any Christians out there. I want to ask you 8 questions to get you to think about what it really means to be an American. My first question is, ask yourself, who will always tell you the truth? This is perhaps the most important question to think about in your entire life. We almost never think about it. We might run into problems of people lying to us or deceiving us, and then we have a bad experience. And then we say, well, I should not trust certain people. But do we ever think about who will always tell us the truth, and how do we know that? Now, as Christians, we have the answer in big capital letters. It's God. It's Jesus Christ. He will always tell us the truth. He has always told us the truth. He will always tell us the truth. So if the most important thing in life is making sure you're being told the truth so you can act on the basis of real correct information, we're pretty darn imprudent if we don't listen to Jesus Christ in everything, and if we start listening to other people who say other things. And this is the whole drama of life, and this touches all the aspects of our life, not just our personal comportment, but also our political life. In the United States, do we really expect to find truth other from Jesus Christ? And in matters of politics, is Jesus Christ's voice not to be heard? So my second question is derived from that is, why should I trust any Mason, seeing how the Masonic lodges pledge to the destruction of Christianity and of Western civilization? And this is a question we need to ask as American citizens, because there's Masonic lodges in almost every town. And a good number of our politicians, if not nearly all of them, are members of the Masonic Lodge. Our 2 political parties are both controlled by the same bank, Brown Brothers Harriman, who are Freemasons, Skull and Bones. And it's not for a mere coincidence that we've already had 3 presidents who are Skull and Bones, and probably a lot more who were controlled or at least sponsored by them. So why do we trust these men? Does the fact that someone gets elected and becomes our governor, our mayor, or our president mean that even though he's a Mason, now we can trust him? I mean, does that make sense? If the Masons wanted to destroy Christianity, why should we Christians trust them? And if the Masons want to wipe out Western civilization as we know it, that is, it's a Christian civilization, why should we vote for them, give them power, or even trust them? So my third question follows upon this. Ask yourself, do you pretend that facts and evidence don't exist simply because they don't jive with the current political correctness? Do you run across evidence about the history of America or what's going on in the United States and you ignore it because you don't want to question the propaganda you've been spoon-fed from television and public school your whole life? Is America the land of the brave and the home of the free? Or is that just propaganda to get us think something? So let me ask you another question. Do you imagine that those who dedicate themselves to evil are good people? Okay, we all are pretty much, Americans, we're pretty friendly people, go along, and as long as he's a good person, we get along with him even if he has different views about religion or politics or pretty much anything. But if a person's not a good person, should we trust them? And if we do, won't we get hurt, damaged, or suffer from it? Can we exclude the whole concept of whether people are good or evil when we're dealing with other people? I can see that you want to be friends. Let's say you want to be friends with someone who's in prison, who's done evil things. But even in that case, you have to use some caution. This is not like the person making donuts at your local donut store. And the same thing regards in politics. If someone is a Mason and pledged to the destruction of Christianity, is he a good person? Can he be a good person? The Christian faith gives us the answer, and it's absolutely not. And Christ tells us not to trust such people. So why do we? Just because they claim they're Americans or we're Americans? Do we cancel out our whole Christian faith and stop listening to Christ? And on this point, think about that. So my fifth question is, why do you more willingly risk yourself for political correctness than for truth? Now, we could take a whole bunch of examples that would be controversial, and I don't want to choose a political example that you have your gut reaction leads you to mind, but let us say, hypothetically, I'm just going to use hypothetically, the Vatican was going to declare war on, not the Vatican, I mean the United States was going to declare war on Mexico for the purpose of exterminating the Christian religion from Mexico. Let's say hypothetically this war is declared and the government gives you a chance to sign up and liberate Mexico from the Catholic Church. Now, as a Christian, as a Catholic, would you get involved in that war? Would you say, yes, America's always right, no matter what, America, right or wrong, I'm going to serve my country? Would you? Think about those examples. Our government has engaged in lots of things. We actually have conquered Mexico in the War of 1848. And there have been many governments in Mexico seeking the extermination of the Catholic Church. And they got aid from the United States government. But do we ignore those facts? Do we pretend they didn't exist? So here it comes down to the questions of, we're living in a society in the United States where three things have replaced with three other things. And the propaganda makes us confused. But there's a difference between courage and audacity. Courage is a man who does something good and risks himself in doing it. He's the man who sees someone drowning at the beach and runs out and pulls the person out of the current, even if he dies in the process. He's the man who runs into the burning building and grabs that baby and comes out, even if he dies of the smoke and burns afterwards. That's courage. A man who does something honest and upright, pure in everything about it. That is for other people and to save the innocent. But there's a false form of courage, and it's called audacity. Audacity is when the person risks life and death so that he can blow up innocents. That's the audacity of a terrorist. Or rob a bank. That's the audacity of a criminal. But there's another kind of more subtle audacity, and that's when you tell everyone you're their friend so that you can get in power and destroy them. That is audacity too. And that's not courage. It's also audacity. The people say that the Nazi soldiers had courage. They had no courage. They had audacity because they were doing evil. And if we serve a government that has objectively Masonic goals, then we don't have courage. We have audacity. It's audacious to do that because you're not serving something that's promised to do what is good. And so in the United States, we have been taught from birth to be about heroism, but the society doesn't teach us about holiness. If you open the pages of the Bible, you don't find the word heroism, not even once, I don't think. But you do find the word holiness many, many times. That should make us stop and think. As American citizens, are we spoon-fed the concepts of heroism to replace us from ever thinking about holiness? Is heroism fighting in a war that has Masonic objectives, or serving in a government that is out to pass Masonic laws? or getting elected to an office to execute the will of the Masonic Lodge, is that heroism? Or does holiness require at some point to say, no, no, and I will not? Why is it that so many secular, godless politicians get in power and have no shame, are audacious to do evil? But when good Christians get in political office, they say, well, I can't impose my views on anyone. Have they forgotten what true holiness is? And are they unwilling to offend secular concepts of heroism? And here we come down to the final question: loyalty and patriotism. In America, you will only hear about patriotism, or maybe you'll hear about loyalty to your party or something. Loyalty to America in a sense of patriotism. But patriotism is loving your country and its people, not necessarily a government, evil government that might be running it. And loyalty too, our loyalty as Christians should be to Jesus Christ. If we have any other loyalty, it has to be always subordinate to that. We can't be more loyal to anything than Jesus Christ, or to anyone who would ask us to disobey our Lord and Master. If we truly are Christians, I don't think we can tolerate a Masonic government system, society, or culture in the United States. And yet as Christians, we do. Many of us came to these shores, probably all of us came to these shores, except the Christians who are American Indians, as immigrants. And so, well, we learned to get along because we were fleeing something worse. But we've been in the country now several generations, and we need to ask ourselves, is this a Christian land? And am I merely trying to avoid the problems? Or do I actually love my country as a Christian? Am I truly loyal to Jesus Christ? Do I have a Christian sense of courage and holiness? And am I willing to do something about it? So you need to ask yourself deep, deep questions. Why do I vote Democrat or Republican? If both of the parties are controlled by the same bank in New York, a Masonic Skull and Bones bank, people think Trump was out to save them, and that Biden is only out to destroy them. But Trump's family has been like this with the Brown Brothers Harriman Bank for nearly 100 years. And Biden is like this with J.P. Morgan, another Masonic bank. Why is it we don't have any presidents from Kansas anymore, or Nebraska, people who are not Masons? Why isn't we haven't had any presidents who are not Masons? I think perhaps we had one, Kennedy. Well, the CIA assassinated him. And this is, whether you liked Kennedy or not, what you thought his politics are, why is it the only Catholic president has been assassinated? So these are the things we need to ask ourselves. And I produced this video because I want you to learn that if you pull that plug of your mind out of the wall socket of propaganda that dominates American culture in every aspect of it, you're not going to short circuit. You're not going to die. Plug that plug into the wall of Jesus Christ. Unplug it from the Masonic culture. Plug it into Jesus Christ. Then the lights will go on. Because if you're living on the secular concepts of loyalty, patriotism, audacity, trusting in Freemasons, everyone's good even if they have an evil objective kind of deal, you're living in darkness and you haven't yet realized what's going on in the United States. Thank you. God bless.